After about 1 month and 70 hours of LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga content, I finally achieved a 100% complete status, which means it was time to make my way back to Yavin 4 to claim that sweet, sweet completion reward. Let's just say though, my disappointment was immeasurable and my day was ruined. So to be clear, the 100% complete reward, if you want to call it a reward, isn't a complete surprise because the complete saga had a similar function. When you completed the game, you could build a stud fountain. So in a way, the completion reward for this game is more nostalgic than anything. But honestly, considering how many useless characters are in this game, I would have loved to see some Force Ghosts as the final reward. Why would we need extra studs after completing the game when you need studs to buy things to complete the game? It just doesn't make any sense. So after standing there for several minutes, I noticed that the studs kept coming and coming and coming. Then I thought to myself, what's the maximum number of studs you can get in this game? So that's how we got here today, and the results may disappoint you. First off, let me start by saying that I'm not talking about counting every stud you get from smashing everything in the game, because that would be impossible, and studs respawn when loading into an area. Secondly, by the end of my gameplay, combined with the stud multiplier, I had managed to rack up over 40 billion studs, which is way more than is needed, and way more than the maximum amount of 4 billion in the complete saga. The first thing I figured I needed to do was calculate the average amount of time it takes to get 100 million studs, which if you're standing in the middle of the stud radius, close to the pull switch, turns out to be 100 million studs every 10 seconds with the 3,840 multiplier active. With that estimate, in order to get 1 billion studs, you would have to stand there for 1 minute and 40 seconds. Since I had already acquired a little over 40 billion before pulling the switch, I decided to wait until I received 50 billion, but I still didn't reach the limit. The next logical step was to see if 100 billion was the maximum. After a lot of waiting around and simply leaving my console to sit, I began to record as I approached the 100 billion mark, hoping that would be the limit. So as I saw these studs pass the 100 billion mark, I knew that the time it would take to achieve the maximum amount of studs would be way more time than I was willing to put into making this video. I mean, let's be honest. But also, I didn't really want to leave my console on, which could perhaps be days on end at the time. The next logical limit would be 1 trillion studs. In order to calculate the time needed to achieve this, I found out that on average it would take 3 hours to get 100 billion studs, standing in the exact same spot without moving. Since I currently have 100 billion, I would need to 9 times my current total, which would equate to 27 hours to reach 1 trillion studs. Like I mentioned before, I'm not willing to risk the health of my console to test this, but if you started a fresh game, loaded in with 100% completion and the maximum stud multiplier, it would take no less than 30 hours to achieve 1 million studs from zero. Here's the thing though, I'm not quite sure that this is even the maximum. It could be some number of trillion or even quadrillion, and in order to test that number, you would need no less than 300 hours or 12.5 days, which is insane to even consider. So unfortunately, we don't have the maximum number of studs achievable for the Skywalker Saga at this point in time, but hopefully someday we can get a confirmation from TT Games, but the madness has to end at some point, right? What that number is exactly, well, I don't think we have 30 hours or even 12.5 days to find out within this video. Hello there, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, and if you want to see more LEGO Star Wars content, check out a few other recommended videos right here.